Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life, from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Week Change Gang. We're back having these conversations in this amazing trauma series that I have had so many great people join me. And I have Paul Matthews back with me. An amazing conversation I had with him previously. I hope you, if you haven't listened to it, that you go listen to it. Thanks for coming back, Paul, and having more of a chat with me.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
So we talked a lot about the work that you did in our last conversation and the work that you hope to do in helping so many people. I know that your goal is to help at least 20,000 people to recover and live with their full potential, to recover from PTSD, trauma, whatever label you want to put on it, to clear those symptoms from life. And that you found through your life that in discovering hypnotherapy, that was the tool that you saw the most difference with. And so you really had to jump in with that. And I love this, what we're going to have a conversation about today, because it's a part of hypnotherapy that some people are aware of, some people are not. Some people would consider it quite a woo part of what we do, but it can also be incredibly helpful. And so you're going to share a little bit about your experience with past life regression today. And so I'm excited to hear about that. I'm going to kind of just hand the floor over to you to share your story about that. Have at it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, I was skeptical, did not believe in past life regression. I had been trained in it. No, it wasn't for me. No interest in it. And one of my colleagues, Agnieszka was her name, an unbelievable hypnotherapist, and we were helping each other. We were practicing at the time. This is many years ago. And she would spontaneously go into a regression. She was always a witch being burned at the stake. In every regression that we did, wherever it was in the world, whatever time, she was always burned at the stake. And we were always cutting the cords from that life to this life. So I was just going, great crack. And I wanted her to do a regression for me because I've always had issues with my weight. And the first regression we did, she brought me back to a period when I was about 6 or 7 walking with my mom to church. And I remember vividly, I didn't until she did the regression, but I'm talking to my mom and my mom says to me, Paul, I'm really worried about you. And I'm only a kid. I said, what's wrong, mom? And she said, you're putting on a lot of weight. And that so affected me. You know, do you not love me anymore? Of course I love you, but I'm concerned about you. You know, I want you to not keep putting on all of this weight. And that was huge for me to get that revelation through the age regression. You know, and she dealt with it. We neutralized all, and that was fantastic. And a couple of weeks later, she asked me, did I want another session? I said, yes. So she does the element induction, my favorite induction, by the way, the best one, I think. And I go into hypnosis, no problem. That's great. She starts doing the age regression part. So I find myself lying on what I can describe as is a metal bed, like in a hospital. Something you maybe do autopsies on. So I'm looking and she's asking the standard questions. Are you alone or with somebody? You know, what can you see? Are the people in the room? So I look around and I see that I'm a naked baby. Oh. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. And so I'm talking away. I'm answering Agnieszka's questions. And she says, is there anybody in the room? And I said, I think so. I can hear. And she did. Okay, I'm going to help you enhance the sound. You're going to hear everything perfectly. All of these good things. So I start hearing these people. There were 3 people. There was a man, a woman, and a doctor. And I could see them. And I'm looking at them and I'm just lying there, not able to do anything. And they're arguing. The man and the woman are arguing and the doctor's trying to get in between to stop this arguing. He's basically using terrible language and saying, this is not even my child. This is my brother's child. I don't want this child. And she's begging, saying, please, I can't remember his name, whatever his name was. Now, I noticed that they were wearing clothes that weren't of our era. It was early 19th century. And I'm going, oh my God, what's going on here? I don't believe it. And this is what I'm seeing. So the doctor is trying his best and he's saying, no, this child has to die.
Oh.
And he pushes the doctor and they have a fight and he gets rid of the doctor, throws him out. And then he comes over to me and I'll never forget this. Even saying it is really affecting me. Just saying it, what happened. He picks me up by the legs and picks me up and whacks me off the table. Like Neshka said, I was lying on like a massage table and said I went right up like this and then fell back. And I immediately felt the cut in my head and this air going into my brain. It was horrific. I have to say. And I felt myself, now obviously she didn't allow me to go through the dying part, but that's what I felt. And then I saw myself looking down after she'd done some more work with me. And it was the most incredible experience that I've ever had in hypnosis, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I saw myself looking down and him attacking the lady as well. And then she started doing the work about cutting the cords from that life to this life. And when I came out, I was uncontrollable, the sobbing.
Oh.
And something just cleared in my life. I sobbed forever. That's how it felt to me. And this was the most cathartic crying I can tell you that I've ever, I don't know if I'd use the word privilege, but that I've ever had. Just so much was released in that session. It was scary. It felt so real. Because I was skeptical of this. That you used the word woohoo. That's how I felt about it. Now I wouldn't practice, past life regression, but people have spontaneously gone into past life regressions in the past with me. And I just go ahead and deal with it. And that's fine. But it did change some things in my life. Like I became, I suppose, more confident in myself. That was really important to me. I just changed after that experience. And I was less, what would be the word? I gave more things a chance before I said, no, that's nonsense. I became more open. I've always been spiritual, but to that side of things, that maybe we have had past lives, so that was great. The confidence improved. There were other things, feelings within me that had changed because of that experience. But it affected Agnieszka, the girl who did the hypnotherapy as well, because she'd never experienced the same thing. She was getting burnt every week. That's a witch, but what I went through and the way my whole body reacted and I came right up off the thing. She'd never experienced that before. That's the power of it all. But it was fascinating.
I'm curious if you made a connection or if I'm just out there, but maybe you want to share about it yourself. But with kind of going back originally and worrying about being loved and accepted and then going all the way back into that where you weren't. I mean, I'm sure your mother loved you, but this person didn't love you, wasn't accepting you, and decided you were not going to continue in that lifetime. And do you think that was a little bit of the connection that was there?
Yeah, that you mentioned it potentially. I've always said that I'm so lucky. I had two parents that loved me unconditionally. They were beautiful. They were the type of parents that kissed each other and hugged each other and held hands and went on dates and stuff like that. And my dad used to say to me, I love the bones of you. What a thing to say. And I say that to my children, and we'd be watching TV and he'd be holding my hand and I'm 16 or 17 years of age and he'd say, Paul, I love you so much. And my mum was exactly the same. So there was never an issue about feeling love. So you're right. There's potentially a connection there.
Yeah.
To be so rejected that your life be taken is a drastic step.
Pretty much, yeah. And
pretty radical when you think about it. No, that's interesting. I hadn't connected those two particularly together. That's very interesting. That's resonating with me, I have to say.
Yeah, isn't it? I've done a couple of past life regressions of my own. I actually did a future life regression too, which was completely fascinating. And I've dabbled a little bit in working with past life regression intentionally, but now I'm doing some training with someone to allow that a little bit more and to be able to kind of help people through when they have that intense experience. Not all of them are like that. I actually had one. It was kind of interesting because it was so simple and so easy and it was a good life. And the person that I actually had the process with that did it on me, they do take you through the dying process to the moment of death and then kind of beyond and into that. And then you have that viewpoint that you talked about of seeing things from a different perspective and outside of yourself type thing. And it was fascinating, but it allowed me in that moment in my life to know that life could be good. Life could be easy and interesting and it didn't have to have all of the drama and trauma and all of the things. It was a little reminder for my soul and my heart that it can be good. It can flow and it can be easy. And I think that's one of the things that going in and doing a past life regression kind of brings us is an awareness of where we're at in the moment and a reflection of that in there. And I think one of the things I would say to people that don't believe it, so what? So what? It doesn't matter if it is actually taking you back to a past life or if your mind is using that as a representation to help you through whatever process it is. Don't you think? You don't have to believe in it.
No, not at all. And I didn't, and people spontaneously regress because I would never, unless somebody paid me a lot of money back then, because I just felt it was fake of me because I didn't believe it. You know, it wasn't, I suppose, my way of seeing things. My integrity wouldn't have allowed me to do it, you know, because I don't believe in it. So it's unfair that I would go through the process. But for those people, I'll give you an example. I had a guy who had a sore neck. Now, he'd been chiropractors, he'd been to doctors, he'd been x-rayed or whatever scans you need for your neck. And there was no organic issue. So there was nothing physical to cause him. But from early childhood, he'd had this problem with his neck. Grand. So we're doing the regression and he spontaneously goes back. And I'm saying, alone or with somebody, what can you see? And he says, well, I'm in a desert. What do you mean you're in a desert? Okay. Did you ever live in the desert? No. I said, what's going on for you? He says, there's a rope around my neck. I said, what? There's a rope around your neck? I said, is there other people? He says, yes, there's people. It's like the Wild West.
Oh.
I'm going, deadly. Okay, let's go with this. So what's happening? He says, somebody is reading out. I said, okay, what's he reading out? He's reading out that this guy has basically been stealing horses and is going to be hung for this.
Oh.
So, okay. And they hang him. He gets hung and I go through all the normal stuff. I did the childhood stuff after I did the childhood work. And after that, he went home and within a day or two, it all went.
Wow.
Now, he didn't believe in past life regressions either. This is just spontaneity where his subconscious mind brought him. And I would completely agree. If somebody came to me now and they wanted it, I would do it. No problem. Because if that's where the mind brings them, it's not our job to say that's incorrect or that's false. Our job is to help the person. That's why we're here. That's what it's about, is helping people. You know, so yeah, I'd happily work with them. And whether it's real or not, that's between them and their subconscious mind. That's nothing to do with me. I'll just do all the work that I can do to help them.
So even though it was a scary situation for you and one that obviously impacted you in that moment, do you feel like that ended up being a really good thing for you?
Yes, it was life-changing. I stopped being a skeptic. As I said, my confidence improved. I'm open to nearly anything until it's definitively proven it's not there. And I think I'm more of a better rounded therapist because I went through that, because I'm going to be more open to whatever happens in the session. I'm not going to be critical about it while I'm doing it, which would affect what you're doing.
Right.
You know, I'm not thinking this is nonsense. How could you be believing this stuff? You know, that is going to have a huge impact in the quality of therapy and the quality of my work. So all of that is not there. So I just accept every person for what they're going through and help them as best I can. But yeah, no, I'm a different person thanks to it, definitely.
I love that. I think if we allow ourselves to be open to things, we allow the change to come in ways that are so unexpected and so amazing and just what we needed in that particular time in our life to then open the next door, and show us more. And the more that we're receptive to those things opening up, the more our mind and the connection to the universe and however you want to think of it really does have more information to be able to help us understand our life and to heal ourselves and allow ourselves to be whole and to help the other people that we're meant to help and all of those things. I think it just keeps opening doors and more doors and more doors.
Beautiful doors for the most part.
Beautiful doors. That's exactly right. I always think it's almost like this field for me. You know, this is my backyard that on the visual that you're seeing on the video part of it, but I just see it as opening up to these amazing fields, and then all of these things pop up in the fields that are just beautiful and amazing, and they show their way into my life. So that's amazing. If someone came to you and asked you for that, you said, yes, you do it, but do you integrate it at all yet into the work that you're doing, or is it kind of just there right now?
I would absolutely, if somebody said to me, I wanted, past life regression, I would absolutely do it, because I've learned, as we've just spoken about, that this can help that person. And if that's what's needed, or if they believe that's what's needed, I can, with all integrity intact, go and follow the process and help those people. And that's really important to me. And I'm trained in doing it, and I'm happy to do it. And all the couple that I've had people spontaneously regressing into a past life have all been healed, if you want to use that word. The issue that they came with has gone away. So it works.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Have you ever been drawn to just say with a client, I think maybe we should do a past life regression? How do you feel about that? Have you talked with them and you felt the drive to do it, or not quite yet?
Not yet. No, I haven't had that experience yet. But if I felt it, I would. It depends on their backstory. You know, there's some people that there's an energy from them.
Yeah.
You know, they've got this energy and you would sense there's something different, and that might be what we need, particularly if they couldn't age regress into a current life or, in their current life. life, I might suggest. But thankfully, I suppose I've been lucky. All the people I've done age regression, something has popped up, we found something, But I think under those circumstances, potentially, I'm certainly far more open to it than I ever was. And even just talking about it, because it's quite a while since I thought about it and talked about it, it's reignited that in me.
Yeah, it is
interesting from a PTSD context, intergenerational PTSD, it could be very interesting. It would be very interesting for somebody to do a spontaneous regression during what we're doing to a past life, that would be very interesting too.
Well, in relation to PTSD, one of the things I think you just said is so key, because even now, with people that I talk to and that I see out there struggling, not only maybe were they influenced by maybe some PTSD, with their parent, their mom, their dad, somebody like that, who could have again been influenced by their grandparent. But if they are the ones that are struggling with PTSD in this lifetime, they might be affecting someone else in their life. And it does tend to go, whether it's a child, a spouse, family members, good friends, something like that. The person living with PTSD is usually not the only person affected by PTSD. And that is generational, and that does come into play. So why wouldn't it maybe be something that is taken all the way back to, 5 generations or something like that? I'm going to step on the woo side for just a second, but not only do we carry some of those difficulties from our past, but by clearing them, you can really receive some of the boosts of the good things that come from the past and allow some of those to be more heightened and more visible. And so we talk a lot about getting rid of the things that we no longer want. But not only are we doing that, or especially I'm not, I think most of the people doing this work, but we're boosting and enhancing the confidence and the motivation and the good things that they want to live in their life. I assume that that's just like you said with that. It boosted your confidence. It came out almost naturally. But we can do that too with a little bit of just direction sometimes, or helpful suggestion in words, not even direction, but just, hey, let's boost that a little bit. That's going to help you bring in your confidence. You do that with your clients, I assume, a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge part. I always want somebody to leave better than when they came. We're also different. That's my mark for what I do. So regardless of the person comes in for, they're going to get confidence. They're going to be talking about how fantastic they are, how amazing they are from this moment forward. You will feel on top of the world, whatever way I think they need to hear it. That's such a huge part of what I would do with a person, and do extra stuff for them as well. I suppose I do it with my kids. I drive them nuts. I'm always saying, would you listen to this? Would you do this? Would you do that? And going back to what you were saying about the generational stuff, I remember talking to my dad, because I said earlier, he loved me so much and I knew it. And he said his dad never ever used the word I love you to him, but he knew he did in everything he did. Now his mother did. And of course we're looking back, that's probably close to 100 years, in Dublin, in Ireland, very different place than it is now. But he always knew, and that was enough for him. But he always wanted us to know that we were loved. And it was the same for both of my brothers and my mother, that he loved all of us. And I often said that in my groups with the clients who are addicted. And I would ask them, we did a group on the 7 pillars of life, being wanted, needed, cherished, etc. And the majority of people, I would say, they never felt loved. Most of them, to be honest, didn't even understand the term cherished. I did try to sing Cherished by Kool and the Gang. Didn't go well at the time. Really can't sing. Once you explain that idea of being cherished and what love truly is, that opened the eyes of people to realize, hold on, I didn't feel these things. And that must be part of the reason I'm sitting here listening to you, going on for the last 2 hours about love, being wanted, needed, etc. But it was so important to them to get that. And it was so simple, but sometimes it is the simple way of putting things, those 7 different things, and that they lack those things in their life. And if they see those things now, there's a possibility that they can start to love themselves eventually, start to cherish their recovery, which was the important part, and cherish this new life that they could potentially have. And I think what was huge for some of them was this idea of being happy and joy. Most people don't understand that happiness is transactional, joy is a constant, and that we should be aiming to not be transactional, to have that joy in their life. So we spent a lot of time talking about joy as well, which was huge for people in addiction.
I'll bet, yeah, because they're not experiencing experiencing those things in the way that, so they go for that transactional happiness instead of going for, and not in a good way necessarily with addiction, but it is that moment of happiness. That's why people do that. That's because it feels good in the moment and it allows them to experience that. And that's a tough place to find the difference in there. And I think that's a good point. You know, I often tell my kids, because I tried to do something better, one thing better than my parents did, or when, you know, shift something. And I tell them all the time, even if you only do one thing better than I did, that's great because it's going to carry down the line for your kids. I love my mom, but my mom didn't know how to say I'm sorry for anything. It was until literally the last couple months right before she died, she started to say, I'm sorry. And that obviously is a whole nother discussion right at the time when you know you're going to be leaving the world. But I've made it a point to say I'm sorry when I need to my kids. And I told them, this is why I do that. And it's really important for you to know you need to find something that I haven't done right or good or that has felt right to you and fix that with how you handle it with your kids.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I'm very lucky. I've got 3 children. One lives in the UK. And my daughter especially keeps on top of me, telling me that I'm not with the current stuff. And I love that because it's great. I do wind her up a lot intentionally. Drives her mad, but it makes me feel deadly, as we say in Dublin, you know. But I love that, this idea that you see things that I'm not doing brilliantly and you improve upon them. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, because then it just carries.
I'm going to take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it carries down. It does start that good generational continuation instead of the difficult stuff that we are going to come in with, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's great. And thank you so much for sharing that experience. And I hope that people heard the good part of that, even though there was the moment of, oh my goodness, in it, that you came out of it with this crazy, amazing situation in your life and experiences and enlightenment of something new and wonderful and how you moved forward from that. If anyone is interested in that and they want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Probably the easiest place is Facebook, which is Paul Matthews Hypnotherapy, or on my website, which is www.paulmatthews, it's MATTHEWS, hypnosis.IE. So it's not .com, .IE for Ireland.
Oh, I didn't know that was like an Ireland thing. That's kind of cool to know. The information will definitely be in the show notes so that you can go and connect with him. And I hope, again, I'm going to remind you to go listen to the last podcast with Paul because he's doing a lot of amazing work and he has some great goals of helping so many people and how he's doing that, especially in Ireland, especially in that local area where and especially also with the addictions and clearing some of those things with that group of people. So connect with him, find him, chat with him. And thank you so much, Paul, for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been amazing. I've loved every minute of it. So thank you so much for everything that you do. I've really enjoyed it. I've listened to some of the other podcasts that you've done. Fantastic work that you're doing. So thank you.
All right, Change Gang. I hope that you had fun with us in this conversation. And if you have any questions, get in touch with Paul, get in touch with me. You can find us in the information there. We're pretty easy to find. So chat with us, ask questions. Always, I know I'm going to say this for him too. We're always open to any questions that you have about anything, available to have those conversations. So jump in and have them. And I hope that you have a great week. And I hope that you'll join us right here, same time next week. I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes. Or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.